The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, interrupting Captain Sarah Chen's coffee break aboard the research station Prometheus. The transmission cut through every communication channel simultaneously, drowning out normal chatter with its alien harmonics. "Greetings, primitive species of Sol 3. The voice began, translated by their universal communicators into crisp English. "We are the hegemony of Zalthara. Your pathetic expansion into what you call outer space has been noted and found wanting." Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. Around the bridge, her crew stopped their morning routines to listen. Through the viewports, Earth hung like a blue marble against the star-filled void, peaceful and unaware. "Your species has spread to 12 star systems in the past century," the voice continued with obvious disdain. "This unauthorized colonization ends now. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to withdraw all human presence beyond your birth system. Failure to comply will result in complete eradication." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez was the first to speak. "Did that alien just threaten to wipe us out if we don't crawl back to Earth?" Sarah set down her mug with deliberate calm. "That's exactly what it did." She turned to her communications officer. "Give me a priority channel to Earth Command, and patch this through to every human colony, mining station, and exploration vessel in known space." Within hours, the alien ultimatum had reached every corner of human civilization. The response was swift and unified in a way that surprised even humanity's own leaders. Colony governors, ship captains, miners, scientists, and settlers sent the same message back to Earth: "We're not going anywhere." Admiral Zhang Wei, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force, called an emergency session of the Colonial Council. Representatives from all 12 systems gathered via quantum entanglement communication, their holographic forms filling the massive assembly hall beneath Geneva. "The Zalthara hegemony," Admiral Zhang began, pulling up what little intelligence they had, "appears to be a multi-species alliance spanning roughly 300 star systems. Their technology is clearly superior to ours in many ways. They can transmit across vast distances without the relay networks we require." Governor Maria Santos of the Kepler 442 system leaned forward. "Admiral, with respect, superior technology doesn't guarantee victory. We've learned that lesson before in our own history." Dr. James Okafor from the Alpha Centauri research colonies nodded agreement. "My teams have been studying alien artifacts for 20 years. Advanced doesn't always mean invincible. Sometimes it just means overconfident." The debate raged for 6 hours. Some voices called for negotiation, others for immediate military preparation. But the consensus was clear: humanity would not abandon its colonies. The decision was unanimous when put to vote. Admiral Zhang stood slowly, his weathered face grim but determined. "Then, we prepare for war. All colonial militias are hereby activated. Every shipyard goes to maximum production. We have 70 days to show these Zalthara that humanity doesn't back down from bullies." Sarah watched the proceedings from Prometheus, feeling a mixture of pride and terror. Humanity had always been stubborn, sometimes to its detriment. But this time, that stubbornness might be their greatest weapon. Captain Elena Vasquez of the deep space cargo vessel Indomitable summed up the human response in her official report. "We didn't claw our way out of Earth's gravity, well, just to run home crying at the first sign of trouble. If the Zalthara want us gone, they'll have to remove us by force." As news of humanity's refusal spread through the colonies, something remarkable happened. Production facilities worked around the clock. Scientists shared decades of research freely. Former rivals pooled resources. The threat had done something no human government had ever accomplished. It had truly united the species. On Mining Station Omega 7 in the asteroid belt, Supervisor Tom Chun welded armor plating to cargo ships while humming an old Earth song. When asked why he seemed so cheerful facing possible annihilation, he grinned. "My grandfather fought in World War III. He always said humans fight hardest when someone tries to take away what's theirs. The countdown had begun, but humanity wasn't counting down to surrender. They were counting down to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the wrong species. Day 43 of the countdown brought unexpected visitors to the edge of human space. 3 sleek vessels, their hulls shifting color like oil on water, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Tau Ceti colony. They were unlike anything in human databases, beautiful, organic-looking ships that seemed grown rather than built. Captain Morrison of the patrol vessel Defiant was the first to make contact. His hands trembled slightly as he opened the communication channel, expecting Zalthara warships. Instead, a melodious voice filled his bridge. Human vessels, this is Ambassador Keela of the Vresh Republic. We request permission to speak with your leaders. Within hours, the alien delegation was aboard Prometheus Station. Ambassador Keela was humanoid, but distinctly non-human, tall, and graceful with silver skin that shimmered in the light. Her large, dark eyes held an intelligence that Sarah found both comforting and unsettling. "We have come to warn you," Keela said without preamble as she sat across from Admiral Zhang in the station's diplomatic suite. "The Zalthara are not what they claim to be." Dr. Okafor leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "What do you mean?" Keela's expression darkened. "The hegemony speaks of order and civilization, but they are conquerors. They absorb species, strip worlds of resources, and eliminate any who resist. We know because we were among the first to face them." She activated a holographic projector, showing images that made the humans gasp. Burned worlds, empty cities, ships drifting lifeless in space. "This was the Korathian homeworld," Keela continued. "They refused to submit to Zalthara rule. Now, other species exists only in hegemony labor camps." Admiral Zhang studied the images grimly. "How many species have they conquered?" "Over 400. Some surrendered immediately and became client states. Others fought and were enslaved. A few, like my people, escaped to the galaxy's edge." Keela's silver skin darkened with emotion. "We have watched them expand for 3 centuries, always hoping someone would finally stand against them." Sarah felt a chill. "And you think we can succeed where 400 other species failed?" For the first time, Keela smiled. "We have studied your species since you began broadcasting radio signals. You are unique. Most species fight for survival, territory, or resources. Humans fight for ideas, for principles, even when you know you cannot win." She showed another hologram, this one of human history. Wars where vastly outnumbered forces had fought against impossible odds. Alamo, Thermopylae, Stalingrad, Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. "The Zalthara cannot understand this," Keela explained. "They expect rational surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They have contingencies for military resistance, for terrorist actions, for desperate last stands. But they have never faced a species that simply refuses to acknowledge defeat." Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from the back of the room. "What kind of forces are we looking at?" Keela's hologram shifted to show Zalthara battle formations. Their main battle fleet consists of approximately 2,000 heavy cruisers and 8 command dreadnoughts. Each dreadnought is the size of your largest cities. They carry weapons that can crack planetary crusts. The humans exchange glances. Admiral Zhang cleared his throat. "We have roughly 300 combat vessels, most of them converted civilian ships. No dreadnoughts, no city killers. Numbers and firepower," Keela said softly, "are not everything. The Zalthara have one critical weakness. They have forgotten how to fight a truly desperate enemy. They have grown comfortable with quick victories against rational opponents." Dr. Okafor was taking furious notes. "What about their technology? Can we level the playing field?" Keela reached into her robes and produced a small crystalline device. "This contains the technical specifications for several Vresh technologies that might help. Shield generators that can withstand Zalthara plasma weapons for short periods. stealth systems that can hide ships from their sensors. And she paused dramatically. The plans for quantum torpedo warheads. Sarah felt her heart race. Why are you helping us? You could have stayed hidden. Because, Keelis said, standing with fluid grace, we are tired of running. Tired of watching good species die because they face the hegemony alone. If humanity fights, we fight with you. Along with the Carathian resistance, the Voldek rebels, and 12 other species who have been waiting for someone brave enough to start this war. Admiral Zhang stood and extended his hand. Then, let's give these Zaltharas something they've never seen before. A galaxy that fights back. As they shook hands, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The Zalthara had made a critical error. They had given humanity time to prepare and allies to stand with them. More importantly, they had underestimated what humans could accomplish when fighting for their freedom. The countdown continued, but now it seemed less like a timer to humanity's doom and more like the fuse on the largest explosive the galaxy had ever seen. Day 71. The Zalthara fleet materialized at the edge of the Sol system like dark thunderclouds gathering before a storm. Sarah watched from the bridge of Prometheus as thousands of alien vessels emerged from hyperspace, their combined mass larger than Earth's moon. At the center of the formation, 8 massive dreadnoughts hung in space like metal mountains. Each one bristled with weapon arrays that could reduce planets to rubble. Surrounding them, heavy cruisers formed perfect geometric patterns that spoke of military discipline refined over centuries. Admiral Zhang's voice crackled across the communication network, reaching every human ship, station, and colony. All units, this is Admiral Zhang. The Zalthara have arrived early. Operation Defiant Light is now active. Across human space, the plan that had consumed the last month swung into motion. It was insane, desperate, and completely contrary to every principle of military strategy ever written. In other words, it was perfectly human. The Zalthara fleet leader, a being calling itself Supreme Commander Vaktar, opened communications with Earth. Its image appeared on screens throughout the system, a tall, imposing creature with 4 arms and skin like polished obsidian. Humans of Sol 3. Vaktar's voice boomed with absolute authority. Your time has expired. We see no evidence of withdrawal from the Forbidden Territories. Therefore, your eradication will commence immediately. Admiral Zhang responded from Earth's orbital defense platform. Supreme Commander, this is Admiral Zhang Wei of the United Earth Defense Force. We have your message and would like to respond in person. A pause. Vaktar seemed genuinely confused. You wish to negotiate surrender? Not exactly, Zhang replied. We want to show you something. Check your sensors. Across the solar system, human vessels began dropping their stealth fields. But these weren't the ships the Zalthara expected. Instead of fleeing civilian vessels and a few makeshift warships, they found themselves looking at the impossible. Every asteroid in the belt had been converted to a weapons platform. Each piece of space debris had been fitted with Vresh-enhanced missiles. Mining stations had become fortress factories, bristling with railguns and plasma cannons. Even the gassed giant research platforms had sprouted weapon arrays. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the sheer number of ships that materialized. 5,000 human vessels of every size and description, from massive converted cargo haulers to tiny single-pilot fighters. And, alongside them, alien ships bearing the markings of 14 different species. Commander Keela's voice joined the communication from her flagship. Greetings, Vaktar. The Vresh Republic stands with humanity. Captain Dexera of the Carathian Resistance added his own transmission, as do the free children of Carathia, whom you thought extinct. One by one, rebel leaders from across the galaxy announced their presence. Species that the Zalthara thought they had crushed, reduced to scattered refugees, or completely subjugated. All of them here now ready to fight. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she watched Sarah-chan of the mining station Omega 7 pilot her converted or hauler directly toward the Zalthara formation. Her grandfather's ship had been refitted with enough explosives to vaporize a small moon. Following her were 50 other civilian vessels, each one a flying bomb piloted by volunteers. Vaktar's composure cracked for the first time. This is impossible. Our intelligence reports showed scattered human forces at best. How did you marshal such numbers? Admiral Zhang's response was broadcast across the entire galaxy, carried by quantum transmitters that the Vresh had helped them build. You made a mistake, Vaktar. You gave us 72 days to get ready. But, more importantly, you threaten our freedom. And humans have a saying about what happens to people who threaten our freedom. The first wave of human fighters screamed past the Zaltharoth formation, not engaging but broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies, a song from Earth's ancient history. The battle hymn of the Republic echoed across space in a dozen human languages. Dr. Okafor had spent the last month studying Zaltharoth psychology with Vresh help. His insight had been crucial to the plan. They expect rational behavior, he had explained. Calculated risks, strategic withdrawals, negotiated surrenders. They cannot process the idea of an entire species choosing certain death over submission. The human fleet didn't attack in waves or formations. Instead, individual ships began breaking off from the main group, each one heading straight for the Zaltharoth vessels at maximum acceleration. Some carried weapons. Others were loaded with nothing but nuclear explosives and determination. Captain Morrison of the Defiant targeted one of the heavy cruisers, his small patrol vessel accelerating past safety limits. This is for every species you've enslaved, he transmitted as a ship slammed into the alien vessel's shields in a ball of nuclear fire. The explosion barely scratched the cruiser's armor, but the psychological impact on the Zaltharoth crew was devastating. They had never faced an enemy that treated their own lives as ammunition. Vaktar's voice rose to nearly a scream. You are all insane. This is suicide. Yes, Admiral Zhang replied calmly. That's the point. You can't intimidate people who aren't afraid to die. You can't negotiate with people who won't surrender. And you can't conquer people who will burn down the entire galaxy before they let you win. The Zaltharoth formation began to waver as more human ships penetrated their defenses through sheer reckless determination. But the real surprise was yet to come. Sarah smiled as she activated her ship's most important system. Not a weapon, but a transmitter that had been broadcasting human culture, history, and philosophy to every corner of the galaxy for the last 70 days. The message was simple. This is what freedom looks like. This is what it costs. And this is what happens to anyone who tries to take it away. Across Zaltharoth space, Rebellion had already begun the Battle of Soul Rage for 18 hours, but its outcome was decided in the first 10 minutes. Not by superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but by something the Zaltharoth had never encountered, an enemy that simply refused to follow the rules of warfare. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the command deck of her converted cargo vessel Indomitable as human fighters swarmed the massive Zaltharoth dreadnought like angry bees around a bear. Each fighter was tiny compared to the kilometer-long warship, but there were so many of them that the dreadnought's point defense systems couldn't target them all. This is Lieutenant Sarah Kim in Fighter Delta 7, came a transmission from a pilot whose ship was already trailing smoke and fire. I'm going critical, but I can take out their primary shield generator if someone covers my approach. Before anyone could respond, 12 other fighters had altered course to escort Kim's dying vessel toward its target. They flew directly into the teeth of the alien defenses, trading their lives for seconds of covering fire. The shield generator exploded in a cascade of energy, and immediately a wave of human bombers swept in to exploit the breach. But these weren't ordinary bombers. They were converted mining ships, cargo haulers, and passenger liners, each one packed with volunteers and explosives. Supreme Commander Vaktar's flagship shuddered under the impact of a dozen suicide attacks. His bridge crew, a mixture of Zaltharoth and client species, stared at their displays in growing horror. Sir, his tactical officer reported with shaking voice, We've lost 17 heavy cruisers, and the Dominion's Fist is reporting critical damage to its main drive. But our losses are meaningless compared to theirs. We've destroyed over 2,000 human vessels. Vaktar should have felt victorious. By any rational measure, the hegemony was winning decisively. But his species had ruled the galaxy for centuries through fear and intimidation, not through the grinding arithmetic of attrition warfare. "They keep coming," he whispered, watching his tactical display as another wave of human ships emerged from behind Jupiter. Why do they keep coming? The answer came from an unexpected source. On his communication screen, the image of a young human girl appeared. She couldn't have been more than 12 years old, standing on what appeared to be a civilian transport. "Hello," she said with the kind of innocent directness that only children possess. "My name is Lucy Chun. I'm from Mars Colony 7. I wanted you to know that you didn't scare us. My daddy says bullies only win if good people do nothing. So we're doing something." Before Vaktar could respond, the transport, along with its full load of civilian volunteers, rammed directly into one of his escort ships. The explosion lit up half the solar system. That was when the hegemony fleet began to break. It started with the client species. The Yartoan had been conquered by the Zalthara 300 years ago and pressed into service as soldiers. They had followed orders faithfully for centuries, but they had never seen anything like this. "I cannot fire on these humans," Captain Velthara transmitted to his squadron. "They fight like the heroes in our old stories, the ones we told our children before the hegemony banned our culture." One by one, Yartoan ships began withdrawing from the battle. Then the Sketh and the Mordau. Within an hour, nearly half of Vaktar's fleet had either fled or openly mutinied. But the real turning point came when the rebellion reached the hegemony's own territory. The quantum transmitters that Dr. Okafor and the Vresh had placed throughout Zalthara space activated simultaneously, broadcasting the Battle of Sol to every world in the hegemony. On Kolios Prime, a Zalthara client world, millions watched as humans threw themselves against impossible odds. Factory workers saw converted cargo ships ramming dreadnoughts. Farmers watched children volunteer for suicide missions. Students observed an entire species choosing death over surrender. The uprising began that same day. 300 years of suppressed anger and resentment erupted across the hegemony. It started with work slowdowns and peaceful protests. Within hours, it escalated to open revolt. Weapons factories stopped producing. Transport networks shut down. Communication arrays went offline. The humans had done more than attack the Zalthara fleet. They had shattered the illusion of invincibility that held the hegemony together. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Jean coordinated the defense from Earth's surface, while Sarah commanded the space-based assets from Prometheus. But the real leadership came from individual ship captains and fighter pilots who had thrown away the rulebook. All vessels. This is the Indomitable, Captain Vasquez transmitted as her ship, now little more than an engine and a nuclear warhead, lined up for its final run. "It's been an honor serving with you all. See you on the other side." Her ship disappeared in a nova of light that vaporized 2 Zalthara cruisers and damaged a third. But even as she died, her sacrifice was being broadcast across the galaxy, inspiring new rebellions on 100 worlds. Supreme Commander Vaktar made his final transmission to Earth 40 minutes later. His once proud flagship was dead in space, its hull breached in dozens of places. Around him, the remnants of the greatest fleet in galactic history were either fleeing or surrendering. Admiral Jean, his voice was hollow with defeat. I do not understand your species. You have lost over 4,000 ships and nearly 2 million lives. By any measure, we should have crushed you." Zhang's response was broadcast across the galaxy. "Commander, you never understood what you were fighting. You thought you were facing 12 human colonies. Instead, you attacked an idea. The idea that intelligent beings should be free to choose their own destiny. Ideas can't be conquered with dreadnoughts." Vaktar's image flickered as his ship's power failed. What do you want from us? Nothing, Zhang replied. We want you to go home. We want you to leave the galaxy's free peoples alone. And we want you to remember what happened here when you consider threatening anyone else's freedom. As the last Zaltharos ships jumped to hyperspace, Sarah looked out at the wreckage filling Earth. The sound of their laughter echoed off walls that bore scars from Zaltharos plasma weapons, but the scars were healing. It's remarkable, she said to Admiral Zhang, who had come to attend the ceremony marking the first anniversary of what historians were already calling the Liberation War. Our world was dead for 3 centuries, and now. Zhang smiled as he watched human volunteers working alongside Carathian civilians to rebuild a school. Life finds a way to come back, given half a chance. The Zaltharos themselves retained control of their original territory, but under strict non-aggression pacts monitored by the new Galactic Federation. Sarah Chun, now Admiral Chun, following a field promotion, approached them carrying a data pad filled with reports from across the galaxy. The latest numbers from the Federation Council, she said, handing the pad to Zhang. 237 formerly conquered species have joined as full members. 43 more are in the process of application. But the numbers only told part of the story. The real transformation was cultural. Humanity's example during the Battle of Sol had done something unprecedented. It had taught the galaxy to say no. Dr. Okafor's research teams had spent the year studying the psychological impact of the human resistance. His conclusions were both inspiring and sobering. For the first time in galactic history, he had written in his report, resistance to tyranny became not just possible, but fashionable. Young beings across the galaxy wore human symbols. They listened to human music and read human literature. Most importantly, they learned human history, all of it, including the dark chapters. They learned about slavery and civil rights, about totalitarian regimes, and the people who fought them, about the long, difficult struggle to extend freedom and dignity to all people. The Zaltharos themselves were perhaps the most changed of all. Stripped of their empire and forced to confront the reality of what they had done, many had fallen into despair. But others, particularly the younger generations, had embraced the opportunity to build something new. But rather than a monument to victory, it was a garden of remembrance, where the names of the fallen were carved into living trees. Captain Morrison's name was there, along with Captain Vasquez and thousands of others. But the centerpiece was a simple plaque bearing the words of 12-year-old Lucy Chun, the girl whose final message had helped break the hegemony's morale. Bullies only win if good people do nothing. We are starting a school, she said. A place where young beings from all species can come to learn about resistance, about standing up to bullies, about fighting for what's right even when it seems hopeless. And in doing so, they had taught the entire galaxy that no one had to be the message arrived on a Tuesday morning, interrupting Captain Sarachen's coffee break aboard the research station Prometheus. The transmission cut through every communication channel simultaneously, drowning out normal chatter with its alien harmonics. Greetings, primitive species of Sol 3. The voice began, translated by their universal communicators into crisp English. We are the hegemony of Zaltharos. Your pathetic expansion into what you call outer space has been noted and found wanting. Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. Around the bridge, her crew stopped their morning routines to listen. Through the viewports, Earth hung like a blue marble against the star-filled void, peaceful and unaware. Your species has spread to 12 star systems in the past century. The voice continued with obvious disdain. This unauthorized colonization ends now. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to withdraw all human presence beyond your birth system. Failure to comply will result in complete eradication. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez was the first to speak. Did that alien just threaten to wipe us out if we don't crawl back to Earth? Sarah set down her mug with deliberate calm. That's exactly what it did. She turned to her communications officer. Give me a priority channel to Earth Command, and patch this through to every human colony, mining station, and exploration vessel in known space. Within hours, the alien ultimatum had reached every corner of human civilization. The response was swift and unified in a way that surprised even humanity's own leaders. Colony governors, ship captains, miners, scientists, and settlers sent the same message back to Earth. We're not going anywhere. Admiral Zhang Wei, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Force, called an emergency session of the Colonial Council. Representatives from all 12 systems gathered via quantum entanglement communication, their holographic forms filling the massive assembly hall beneath Geneva. The Zalthara hegemony, Admiral Zhang began, pulling up what little intelligence they had, appears to be a multi-species alliance spanning roughly 300 star systems. Their technology is clearly superior to ours in many ways. They can transmit across vast distances without the relay networks we require. Governor Maria Santos of the Kepler 442 system leaned forward. Admiral, with respect, superior technology doesn't guarantee victory. We've learned that lesson before in our own history. Dr. James Okafor from the Alpha Centauri research colonies nodded agreement. My teams have been studying alien artifacts for 20 years. Advanced doesn't always mean invincible. Sometimes it just means overconfident. The debate raged for 6 hours. Some voices called for negotiation, others for immediate military preparation. But the consensus was clear: humanity would not abandon its colonies. The decision was unanimous when put to vote. Admiral Zhang stood slowly, his weathered face grim but determined. Then, we prepare for war. All colonial militias are hereby activated. Every shipyard goes to maximum production. We have 70 days to show these Zalthara that humanity doesn't back down from bullies. Sarah watched the proceedings from Prometheus, feeling a mixture of pride and terror. Humanity had always been stubborn, sometimes to its detriment. But this time, that stubbornness might be their greatest weapon. Captain Elena Vasquez of the deep space cargo vessel Indomitable summed up the human response in her official report. We didn't claw our way out of Earth's gravity, well, just to run home, crying at the first sign of trouble. If the Zalthara want us gone, they'll have to remove us by force. As news of humanity's refusal spread through the colonies, something remarkable happened. Production facilities worked around the clock. Scientists shared decades of research freely. Former rivals pooled resources. The threat had done something no human government had ever accomplished. It had truly united the species. On Mining Station Omega 7 in the asteroid belt, Supervisor Tom Chun welded armor plating to cargo ships while humming an old Earth song. When asked why he seemed so cheerful facing possible annihilation, he grinned. My grandfather fought in World War III. He always said humans fight hardest when someone tries to take away what's theirs. The countdown had begun, but humanity wasn't counting down to surrender. They were counting down to show the galaxy what happened when you threaten the wrong species.